Well, good evening, everyone, and you are very, very welcome to this extremely special Dublin UX broadcasting live from our homes to yours. This is extremely exceptional circumstances globally, and of course, Dublin UX has had to react. We did sort of observe all the wonderful events moving online, and we thought, hey, we can do this too. But we didn't want to do a standard event using Zoom or some form of meeting software. So we're bringing this to YouTube where we can reach a lot more people. Currently live, we've got 101, and we've just started the broadcast, and there will be a lot more joining over the next 2 hours. This is a 2-hour event. There's going to be 4 speakers. We'll get to that in a moment. The beauty of the platform we're using this evening essentially means you can hit pause. There will be no breaks. If you want to take a break, you hit pause, you go away, you come back, and you can start off from where you left off. If you've joined late, which everyone is here is live, you can hit rewind, and that's just the beauty of this wonderful platform. The event this evening will be available on demand for 48 hours afterwards. So absolutely loads of time for everyone to watch the wonderful content that we have. And talking about content, we do have a new Rewind YouTube channel. So we're watching this on YouTube. So do take a moment to click on the subscribe. We are releasing some content from the archives, at least one a month over the rest of the summer. So we've got about 2 or 3 more that we want to publish. Some very old content that we've managed to find recordings of, but still very exciting content. The first one was, of course, with Frank and Henry. That was back in December when they spoke about the digital healthcare revolution, and that content is available now to stream as well. So we've got a very exciting event planned this evening. We are sponsored, of course, by the wonderful team at Technology Ireland Software Skillnet. And in about an hour or so, Kathryn Cullen from Technology Ireland Software Skillnet will be joining us to actually talk about the wonderful partnership they have with IADT. So look forward to that at about 8 o'clock. You can take part tonight in various methods and ways. We are across all social media platforms. And I'm not doing this solo. I do have a co-host, and I'd like to introduce my co-host for the evening, and it is Roisin. Roisin, how are you?
Hi, guys. Hi, Patrick.
Welcome.
How are you?
This is
exciting,
amazing.
isn't it?
I know. Technology actually works. And here we are broadcasting live from our homes in Dublin to the world. So how's lockdown been treating you?
Oh, it's been good. It's been good. It's been a big adjustment, but yeah, it's been good. I've been enjoying it. How about you?
Likewise, I think I could be a hermit very easily, honestly. No, I'm very lucky. I've got a nice setup at home here. I've got a good, strong broadband. I've got my large monitor. I can work from home, so I'm fine with that. Yes, I did miss getting out to my coffee shops, and I was really happy when Starbucks reopened again. As everyone knows me knows, I love my Starbucks, and I got down to Starbucks about 2 weeks ago. But otherwise, this has been keeping us very busy getting organized for this event.
It has, and we have some amazing speakers coming up. Really excited. Serious topic, but I think, it's really going to be super relevant for us coming, into the remote world and dealing with that. So yeah,
I completely agree. And we did talk about this at our February event, which seems so long ago at this stage. And we announced that the event this evening, or our next event, was going to be based on mental health. So it felt right for us to come back and tackle this very serious topic the way we are this evening. How can we take part? I know we're using Slido. Can you take us through that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are going to be accepting questions for our speakers. We're going to be doing some Q&A with them. So we really want lots of participation here. So make sure that you get online, go to slido.com and just use the hashtag Dublin UX to find our group, and please submit your questions.
Yeah.
We want to make this a really nice interactive experience, so please get involved. And the other thing that we want to find out is, where are you watching from today? So if you haven't already, go on to our poll and tell us where you're watching from. It's our first online event, so we're hoping for lots of international participation.
Yes, I agree. And we'll have a look at that in a moment. I'm just taking a little sneak peek at it here. I will just, let's have a look and see. We've got about 20 submissions so far. So do log on to slido.com, scan that QR code, and we'll be displaying an updated number in a few moments. So do take a moment to do that. Of course, we're not doing this alone, are we, Russian? We do have a full team, and I'm going to connect the entire team in now. So Sylvia, Frank, Flavian, thank you so much. This is the entire team supporting us. So hey, everyone. How's lockdown been? Sylvia, over to you first. And you're joining us not quite from Dublin. You're currently in Italy.
Yep, I am.
And what's it like? Tell us. How are you getting on?
It's been good. Let's say it's been a long journey without planes to come here. But you know, weather is good, and I have a good setup as well.
Exactly. And how are you going to be supporting the event this evening?
I'm gonna help you with the chat events in YouTube. I'm moderating the chat, so feel free to add any question, interact, and we will be sure to show your comments live.
Perfect. So do interact on our YouTube channel for that one. Flavian, you're joining us as well. So how have you been getting on?
I'm good, thanks, Patrick. So I will be in charge of the community moment, because tonight after the talks, we're giving everyone an opportunity to talk directly to the community. So maybe you're looking for a job, or you're offering a job, or maybe there's a cause, an initiative that you think we should know about. So all you have to do is to send us a direct message on Twitter. So Dublin_UX. We'll have a quick chat, and then we will invite you in. Simple as that, Dublin_UX, and looking forward to hear from you.
That's fantastic. And time-wise, we're aiming for around about 9 p.m. this evening, so a little under 2 hours time for that community moment. Do take advantage of it. We'll bring you into our studio here, and you'll be broadcasting globally. It's a great platform to talk about whatever it is you want to talk about for about a minute or so. And Frank, how have you been?
Very good. Patrick, this is very Eurovision. I love it.
There was no Eurovision this year, and you know, you're leading into this one. There's a vote, isn't there? There will be a live vote tonight.
Yes, there will be a live vote, and I'll be doing it in French and in English.
Oh, I'm going to hold you to that.
1 point.
So tell us, how are we going to do this Twitter giveaway this evening?
Yeah, this is really exciting. We have a wonderful set of prizes. We will not only nourish you mentally, but also physically, because we have a voucher from Just Eat and also €600 worth of access to online training.
Woohoo!
Yeah.
On the Tutorial site, right? Not only that, though, we think that there should always be a second prize, a runner-up prize, and that person gets a lesser voucher from Just Eat, but nonetheless enjoyable. I'm sure. Burgers, pizza, Thai, it's all out there.
I think it's great. Honestly, this is a real lockdown prize we're giving away this evening, between the training and the meal at home. And of course, we really have to give our sincere thanks out to Technology Ireland Software Skillnet for their sponsorship of tonight's event, making these giveaways possible. So we've got 2 prizes. How are we going to decide the winner? How do we take part?
Well, how you take part is, again, communicate with us through Twitter. And we want to see how you are enjoying and experiencing this wonderful live broadcast. So you might be halfway up Carton Tuchel and watching this on your mobile. You might be in your lounge and streaming this on your 55-inch TV or anything in between. So take a picture of how you're enjoying the event. I have my special event mug here.
Oh, very nice. Yes.
Right. And of course, I will do some shortlisting and pick out the 2 which I think are most entertaining or noteworthy. And we will then ask everybody to vote for the winner. And we'll have an online poll that will last just 1 minute. You get your vote in, and at the end, we'll have a winner and a runner-up.
That is fantastic.
Wow.
That is fantastic. And of course, unlike our usual event where you have to be in the audience physically to receive this, this is going to be a remote entrance, which is fantastic. And we know that some people will be stepping away because they can't be here for the entire evening. You don't have to be here at the awarding of the prize, which will be around about 9:10 this evening. If you win, we'll reach out to you. But I can't wait to see the photographs that people are sharing on Twitter. So get creative. I think you're going to be looking for the most creative ones.
Indeed. And just as an aside, you got to be a member of the community to win, and also you've got to be able to avail of the voucher, which is for Ireland, just FYI. Or if you have friends in Ireland, obviously you can gift it to them.
Most certainly you can. And this is it. This is Dublin UX. We are broadcasting globally. It is a Dublin and Irish focused event, but this is our first time going global. Next time, if we see a lot of people joining from outside of Ireland, we can go global with our prize as well. So we can think bigger. Right. Well, thank you so much. Before we say goodbye to the rest of the co-organizers, we did ask at the very start, in what city are you watching from today? Should we have a look at the results? Let's see if everyone is in Dublin. Let's do it, indeed. Here we are. Wow, look at this. Okay, no surprise. Dublin is still trending #1. There's still time to submit your city and see can you get your particular city trending there. But really, this is fantastic. We're seeing
Antarctica, Patrick.
Antarctica. Well, there you go. I never that's a first for us, honestly. We're seeing Brazil. We're seeing various cities around the United States as well. So yeah, that's fantastic, isn't it? Really. Okay, team. Thank you so much for really helping out. We've got a long road ahead of us this evening, so you're going to be keeping very, very busy. And of course, as a reminder, you can interact with us this evening on Slido. That's where we're going to be looking at our questions. And Oisin, you'll be monitoring those questions and bringing those into the Q&A sessions later on. Do tweet your pictures to enter the giveaway. The top 2 will go head-to-head in a Eurovision-style poll, and the winner will go away with the majority of the prizes, which is fantastic. And then, of course, do comment in our YouTube live stream. The select comments will be broadcast this evening as well. So that's it. Thank you so much, Sylvia, Frank, Flavian. I'll let you go on your merry ways. So thank you so much, and good luck with the evening. So, Roisin, we're going to get going now in a moment.
Very exciting.
It's a good event, isn't it, really? Mind Matters is what we're talking about. And one thing to highlight is that this is for entertainment. We're bringing this evening together for entertainment and for education, of course. We are not trained experts in all matters of the mind. So it is very, very important to highlight the following numbers as well. These are help numbers that if you are in need, please do reach out. There is someone who can listen. Of course, Pieta House is there, Samaritans is there. There's a new one that's really been published heavily today. It's a crisis text line, uses artificial intelligence, and then will reach you through to a volunteer. And you can use that one to have a chat if you're going through any form of emotional breakdown, anything at all. You can text hello to 50808. And of course, in any emergency, please do reach out to 999 or 112. We can't stress that more than enough. There's some additional links there. So yeah. Tonight is for education and entertainment, but there are trained professionals who can help with all of these matters of the mind.
Absolutely, absolutely.
2 parts. You've been speaking with most of our guests, so you know what they're talking about. For me, I'm going into this blindly, and I'm very excited. It's a night of 2 halves. The first half is going to be really based around product. We've got Aimée-Louise, Carton, and we've got Tormey, and then we will have a Q&A with both together. We'll bring on Kathryn to talk about the wonderful collaboration that Skillnet are doing with IADT. Then the second half is Mind Matters. We're going to bring on Piers and Vessy. We round it off with another Q&A and our community moment, and then we'll have our tweets of the evening itself. So I think we'll bring on our first guest, will we, for this evening? And that is going to be Aimée-Louise. So let me bring Aimée-Louise in. Amy, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
This is exciting, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh my God, I'm so excited for tonight. I think it's going to be really fun.
I completely agree. And you know what? I'm fascinated by your story. I really, really am. You were all over RTE today as well. Look, you're forever in the news. Look, it's amazing, isn't it? Just to go through your sort of your bio, it's good to read out your bio. You are co-founder and CEO of Keep Appy. I have been using Keep Appy. I've been using it for the last few days, in fact. I just adore how it enables you to really self-track and be aware of certain attributes of how you're living and how they all play against each other. I think it's fantastic.
Absolutely.
Can't wait to learn about that. It's a wellness app that really acts as a gym for your mental health, as you describe it, and it completely is. You graduated from Trinity and the University of Amsterdam. Co-founder of... Oh, don't be ashamed of it. Do not be ashamed of it.
Own it.
Exactly. Co-founder of the US-based PCSRC. What is that?
So it was basically a coalition with all the major mental health crisis response organizations in the US in response to COVID. So we created a huge platform that was basically the yellow pages for mental health.
Amazing.
Incredible.
Yeah, amazing.
Great.
Absolutely amazing. You're certainly recognized for your work as a public speaker and activist, and that's how I became aware of you with your public speaking. And I thought we need to get you on here. This, especially when we mentioned back in February that we're going to have this mental health special. You were the first person that came to my mind is that I need to get Aimée-Louise on. So I'm really thrilled that we have you this evening. We're very lucky, very, very lucky, I have to say. I think we'll get going. Would you like to just share your screen there, and I shall remove my screen share, and then we can get going.
Okay, here we go. Let's make sure I have this done right.
Of course.
And let's present. Can we all see?
We certainly can. We are good. So, Aimée-Louise, we will leave you in the good hands of the wonderful WX audience, and we will see you at the other side of your talk. So, best of luck.
Fantastic. Thank you. So as Kathryn very kindly introduced me and gave me such a much bigger head than I deserve after all those compliments, my name is Aimée-Louise Carton, and I am the co-founder of Keep Appy along with Will Ben Sims. And my journey today begins quite darkly. Let's start with a story. I always like to start with the story, and more importantly, my story. So it began in the darkest of places when I decided to end my life. It had all become too much. I couldn't cope anymore. And I walked up to a bridge in Dublin and decided to end my life. And thankfully I was saved. This is a happy story. I was saved by the fact that I just knew I couldn't let anyone else look after my dog or spoil her as much as I wanted to. And the thing is that I knew I had to spoil her in every way possible. And in doing that, I couldn't do it. And that was what began the journey for Keep Appy. I realized that there needed to be a wellness app that could help people take control of their mental health before they ever reached the point that they walked on to a bridge like I did. And that's where I began. I started looking at the WellTech space during my recovery. I wanted to find something that would help me speed up my recovery, that would help me take control of my mental health. And when I brought this up to my doctors very quickly told me, don't meditate. Do not meditate. It is the worst thing you could do. And I remember being shocked, just completely shocked. I had never imagined that this thing that we are all advised to do was the wrong solution for me. Because the thing is, it didn't work for me as an individual, just like rowing. I'm not very good at rowing. I don't have the back for it. And that's when I started to learn about the various tools available in the mental health space. And then I started to learn more about how much they can positively impact an individual, whether it's goal setting and feeling that sense of accomplishment, whether it's journaling and processing your stresses and going through the day-to-days of life, or behavior tracking. We all track our weight, our steps, our sleep, our heart rates, and yet no one seems to do it with happiness. And also gratitude diary, whether it's increasing that sense of gratitude or belonging and identity. But all these things were diminished for me. Mental health, in my mind, was meditation. And that's kind of the problem. There are so many apps out there, but they're very hard to use. Tonight, we're all about UX. We're talking about UX. And the majority of the apps out there are designed by the best of people with the best of intentions. But they're loud, they're chaotic, they're hard to use. There's too many of them. When we look at this market this marketplace, there's over 200 wellness apps added to the App Store every single day, and it's chaos. And the reality is that there's so many people out there with the best of intentions building these products, but they're just too much for the individual because they don't design for mental health. And then I started looking into this more, and I started to question, why had I walked up onto that bridge? I had spent my whole life learning about my physical health, but the thing that nearly ended my life wasn't my mental health. It wasn't my physical health. It was my mental health. When I looked at it, 1 in 4 people suffer from a mental illness. By 2030, the World Health Organization has stated that mental and wellness will be the leading cause of chronic illness worldwide. And 1 million people across the world do end their life each year, with 19 million more making an attempt like me. So I started to get really frustrated, and I really questioned this. And I was like, what is the root of this problem? Why are so many people so unwell? And we're not doing enough about it. We're not doing it. There are 200 wellness apps added to the App Store, and yet the problem still persists. So then I started looking into the narrative. You know, when I picture mental health, and when I did back then, I saw this girl crying. And like, I was that girl. But that's not everyone with a mental illness. In fact, tonight, the majority of us are in the tech world, and 2 out of 3 of us will feel consistently stressed, and more than half of us will experience mental illness throughout our lives. And yet, we're not all this girl. And then I looked at physical health, and there's all these smiling gym bunnies, all the images of it were really like proactive and positive. And that really kind of annoyed me, because we all know how physical health works. We know you can exercise, and sometimes you can get injured. And when you get injured, you can take medication and get recovered, and then you feel happy again. But I didn't understand any of these steps when it came to my mental health. I didn't know what my mental health looked like. I didn't know what mental health looked like when it's injured. I didn't know how to get better, and I didn't know what positive mental health looked like. But what is mental health? That was the starting point. We all have, 1 in 4 of us may have a mental illness. I have a mental illness. But the truth is that we all have mental health. We all have the highs and lows of our daily lives, whether it's that stressful deadline due for your boss at the end of the week, or even just waking up on the wrong side of the bed. We all have those ups and downs. And yet, we don't value happiness. We don't value the habit of happiness. You know, with our fitness trackers and our wearable tech, or calorie counters on our phone like MyFitnessPal, you know, we are able to take control of our physical health every single day. And yet we don't do that with our well-being. We don't know how to tackle stress head on, and we don't know how to fight low mood. And in this conversation, I'm not talking about mental illnesses. I'm talking about the general stresses of day-to-day life. And this is the issue. Mental health isn't sexy. It's not the gym bunny doing stretches. It's not, you know, the buff guy in the gym, or whatever area of the spectrum you are. So we needed to create a narrative that made happiness sexy again. And I know people laugh at me for saying that, but it's true. We need to make it in the eye of the public. We need to bring it back. So how do we do that? Well, we remove any barriers. That's what happened with the gym. Gyms became really accessible. They became very commonplace, and they became really engaging. First and foremostly, it's about the design. They have to be very clean. You have to design cleanly and in a way that doesn't evoke stress. And evoking stress can happen through color, through content, through the amount of words on the page, the type of font you use, the design, the interaction, the way the user experiences your product is essential to removing any barriers for someone who's mentally unwell or even just stressed. We needed to create an app that exists both on the App Store and the Google Play Store. The majority of people who experience low mental health on an ongoing basis typically are not able to afford exclusive types of phones, which typically are Apple products. And this isn't anything against Apple. I love Apple, but you know, when we look at the diversity and inclusion of these products, you need to make it more accessible for the population. And finally, the most important thing is understanding your user. You know, there are so many meditation apps out there. There are so many mindfulness apps out there. We have mindfulness on our app, and it's a brilliant tool for lots of people. But the reality is that there are more tools out there for more people, whether it's journaling or goal setting or gratitude. There's so much that an individual can do to take control of their mental health. And yet by not talking to the user, by not talking to what they, or understanding what they want, and just going for the mainstream, we're creating problems for them and creating barriers to access. And most importantly, you have to make it fun. Exercise and living healthily creates this really wonderful experience for an individual, and it creates endorphins, and it can be fun and engaging. Mental health is seen as a chore. So ways you can come around this is through gaming, through point system, through beautiful little videos or interactive experiences within the product you're developing. I know Wobot will be speaking in a bit, and their design is exceptional. It is so engaging. It is so really fun. And that's the core of wellness. We need to make mental health engaging again and remove this stigma, remove the narrative that it's a chore. More than that, you need to empower your users. And there's 3 steps to this. It's engagement, it's through learning, and it's through understanding. So it's by practicing one-to-ones with the user. It's helping them understand what's going on. It's by teaching them information about wellness and mental health, and it's creating organic understanding. So that's exactly what we did with Keep Happy. We created a movement. We're a social enterprise. For everyone who subscribes to the app, we will donate a lifetime version to someone who is struggling with their well-being, chosen anonymously by an organization we work with. This is removing the barrier at step 1. We also commit to data protection and have been accredited by an organization that is associated with the NHS. And in doing so, we have created a standard to protect our users. Not sure if you're aware, but in September, numerous period tracker apps were identified as having sold their data to international organizations. And most importantly, you have to look at empowering a product for everyone. When you look at the concept of general mental health, you need to figure out that you have to realize that a one-size solution doesn't work for everyone. So what we did was we created Keep Happy. We have 10 different features, from mood tracking to journaling to goal setting. And the entire app becomes personalized to each user. As you can see here from this section, this user has had low mood, and as a result, you can also see how that has interacted with their hydration levels. They've consistently input the information that their hydration and mood are correlated. The app then becomes tailored to each user. We have personalized content. The journal and prompts will be targeting you on how you can improve your mood, looking at the other vitals, such as water. We made it fun. This is the most important thing about Keep Happy. We went above and beyond to make it engaging and fun for everyone. And the way this works is by every time you interact with the app, you get points. And you can use these points to play with your adorable little Keepy. It's a little digital AR-based puppy. And that is Keep Happy. It was absolutely wonderful talking to you, and I hope you learned a little bit more about UX, about mental health, and about Keep Happy. Thank you.
Wonderful, absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much for that. What a journey! What an absolute journey. Yeah. The future of this, I think, is quite interesting, isn't it? Really, because this whole quantified self is something that I subscribe to. I do like tracking small things about my life, or rather, it's number of steps or the weight, which always seems to be increasing. But it's allowing yourself to experience happiness, is what you touched on there. I think that's really interesting. Right, I'm going to ask you to stand by, and we're going to bring in our next speaker. And what we'll do is we'll do a little group conversation at the end. I think that would work very, very nicely. Yeah, thank you so much. Again, it's a wonderful, wonderful story with a very happy ending, I have to say. It's a very happy, no pun intended.
Cringe.
Oh, cringe. Anyway, yeah, so thank you so much. And with that, we'll see you back in about 20 minutes time, and we'll have a good conversation then. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Aimée-Louise.
See you soon.
Wow.
Rosie, that was fantastic. I know, absolutely. It really, really is. Great speaker, great product. Again, if you haven't tried it, there's a free trial on it. I love the fact that for everyone who does subscribe, there's a subscription given away for free to someone. That's just incredible, really.
Really, really nice. Really, really nice. And just so like encompassing of the whole idea of it, gorgeous just output from like such a hard and dark place, but just lovely.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. Right, before we move on, let's just have a little look at our schedule. It's always good to bring up our agenda just to show that we are definitely on track, and I believe we certainly are. Yes, we certainly are. I just want to again remind everyone that we are running a wonderful promotion this evening. It's our Twitter giveaway. So please engage with us on Twitter. We're looking at the comments coming through on YouTube. They're fantastic. Do get your questions across through to Slido. We will be reading through those questions and surfacing them as we get into our panel discussion in about 20 minutes time. But most importantly for this Twitter giveaway, we're looking for photographs. How are you watching us this evening? Take a photograph of your setup, your screen, your monitor, whatever it is, and tweet us at WX or hashtag WX. Frank is monitoring those and engaging with you on Twitter. And of course, he will be selecting the funniest, most creative two to go head to head at the very end. And our giveaways this evening are with thanks to Technology Ireland Software Skillnet. We've got essentially about 800 quid worth of prizes there, which is just phenomenal to give away this evening. So
super.
Yeah. With that, let's move on to our second speaker this evening in the first part. We're going to be bringing in Keith. So I believe Keith is on standby. So Keith, there you are. Welcome.
Hey.
Welcome to Dublin UX. How are you?
How's it going? Pretty good.
Very good. We are so honored that you can join us this evening. The theme is From Our Home to Yours. So thank you so much for doing this. It's great. We were speaking, when was it? You were heading to San Francisco. I was heading off to the States at the start of the year when we were putting together some early thoughts on this event, and we were exchanging ideas back and forth on Twitter. And our paths weren't crossing. We were flying over the Atlantic at different stages. And now look at this. We're all stuck in Ireland. We can't go anywhere.
Yeah.
Isn't it incredible?
It's a change in 3 months, huh?
Isn't it just? It really, really is. So, Keith, let me just go through your bio. You're leading design at Wobot. Wobot is a chatbot. I just love chatbots that helps people with their mental health using cognitive behavioral therapy. So a bit of CBT in there. And of course, prior to leading that team, you led the design teams at Ryanair, where you built out the company's first dedicated design function. Well done. Also, Facebook as design manager, where you led on the community integrity and support. And as well as design, you like baking, cycling dogs, and not baking dogs, of course.
Give it a shot, yeah.
No, listen to K-pop.
Oh.
My daughters do, so I just threw that as,
Yeah, it is quite infectious, isn't it? I've been to Seoul, and it is quite infectious. It's very, very good.
Who's your favorite K-pop artist?
Oh, don't put me on the spot.
No, I'll tell you mine then. Mine's G-Dragon from Big Bang. They're amazing.
Okay, can I say Wonder Girls?
I don't know.
Do you know them? Oh, they had a great song.
Check them out, yeah.
Wonder Girls. I want nobody but you. That was a song of my summer that year. That was amazing. Anyway, enough for discussion on K-pop. I'm looking at comments coming through here on Twitter. We're already being booed off the stage. So at this point, I think we will give the stage over to you, Keith. And if you want to share your screen there, we will make it full screen, and we will exit stage and give the airways over to yourself.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. I'm going to talk about K-pop for 20 minutes. Okay. Yeah, here we go. Bear with me.
No problem at all.
Oh, shoot.
And of course, while you're getting that lined up, do take part in Slido. You can interact in there. You can upvote and downvote particular questions, which is always very interesting.
We have some amazing comments coming through from YouTube about Aimée-Louise's talk.
Oh, fantastic.
Great stuff. One here from Shane Murphy. Wow, Amy, amazing story. Thanks so much for sharing your background. Good luck with the app. Downloading it as I type. Great
fantastic.
Feedback.
That's fantastic. Yeah. That's fantastic. I can see your screen. So, Keith, over to you, and we'll talk at the other side. Okay. Best of luck.
Cool. Yeah. Thank you. Okay. So, hello everyone. Hope you're all well. It's pretty weird, but yeah. Quick shout out and thanks to Patrick and the team for inviting me to talk. Really excited to be here. So as Patrick said, my name's Keith. I'm a designer at Wobot. I work with the team there on building a product that helps people with their mental health, which I'll talk more about in a second. Also in recent years, I've led design teams at Facebook and Ryanair. So for this talk, I want to discuss quite a broad topic, less so around the product of OBOT, but more so around systems thinking in the context of mental health. And also share a framework I devised for designers and teams to help them think bigger and apply their design skills in tackling complex system problems. But firstly, a little bit about WOBOT. So WOBOT was founded by an Irish woman and Stanford psychologist, Alison Darcy, in 2017. We actually just celebrated her 3rd birthday. And Alison had been tinkering about for several years with technology and primarily game design, and trying to come up with a way to make mental health care more accessible to people. And WOBOT is currently, our team are based in San Francisco and Dublin, and it's 29 people, a mixture of clinical experts, conversational designers, engineers, products, research and design. And our mission is to make mental health care radically accessible. And yeah, what do I mean in terms of accessible? I mean, some of the main barriers for people in accessing mental health care are the cost. It can be really costly. Poor resources, or total lack of resources. Geographical location can be an issue. Time. So, if you want to see someone at 3 a.m., it can be difficult. And also another big one is just stigma. General stigma about mental health and people being afraid to seek help when they need it. And as I mentioned, WOBOT's an AI-powered chatbot that aims to solve this problem by primarily uses CBT techniques and a healthy amount of goofy jokes to help people track and manage their mental health. And yeah, thinking about mental health, I mean, just to think about the scale of the problem, even in Ireland alone, there's an interesting stat. So 18.5% of the Irish population are recorded as suffering from a mental health disorder. And it costs the economy $8.5 billion every year. And another interesting one is that, I mean, this is kind of flabbergasted me, but yeah, severe anxiety has doubled in 7 years with adolescents. And you have to remember as well, with these stats, like these are just reported cases. So the reality is probably quite a bit higher. And when we think about it globally, there's over 300 million people suffering from depression, making it the leading cause of disability worldwide. I think, in fact, the WHO made a prediction, I think it was 2025, that it would become the leading cause of disability, but it actually reached that 10 years before. And finally, just to give some current context, I came across this article last week in the Washington Post, but they're saying because of coronavirus and just this the changes that have come on the world in the last few months, they estimate a third of Americans are now showing severe signs of anxiety and depression, which, yeah, it doesn't bode well for the future. A ton of challenges ahead. So, and when we think of the scale of a problem such as mental health, we can think about it at an individual level and at a a collective level. Like most people, when they suffer from mental health, they tend to suffer alone and they go see their doctors, and it's or use a product or service, and that's a very one-to-one localized relationship. But actually, when you talk about solving this on a much bigger scale, and you zoom out, you see that depression and mental health, it's without a doubt a global epidemic, and it's a really massive problem facing humankind right now. But it's also a really complex systems problem, and it's important that we acknowledge this collectively and approach it as such. As with any systems problem, particularly when there's a large social element, these systems are they're constantly in flux, unintentional, full of drift, and we only ever really understand the ramifications of them in hindsight. They're essentially a tangled mess of people, processes, and interactions embedded in the natural world. And if we really wish to create long-lasting change and truly sustainable futures, then we need to think about these problems in a significantly different way than we're used to. And I just want to talk a little bit about wicked problems. This is a really interesting topic, but generally when you have these complex systems, these interconnected and intertwined wicked problems arise out of them. I just want to quote Horace Riddle, who coined the phrase wicked problems, and he described them as a class of social system problems which are ill-formulated, where the information is confusing, where there are many clients and decision makers with conflicting values, and where the ramifications of the whole system are thoroughly confusing. And some examples of wicked problems are, like, obviously, mental health is a primary example, but it also other problems that would fit into this bracket would be things like poverty, racism, sexism, climate change, crime, economic crisis, etc. So all these big juicy problems. So what we kind of have here is like a radically complex system problem located in a radically large systems context. And an interesting thing to note that wicked problems and socio-technical systems, they display the same anatomy and dynamics as living systems. So what I mean by that, these are kind of living and constantly changing systems. And like any living systems, there are guiding principles that we need to be aware of when we start to think about solving problems within these systems. So I'll just run through these quite quickly. So living systems tend to be self-organizing. They are fractal or network structures, which means they're hierarchic, not hierarchical. It's really difficult to predict the behavior. The change result is not proportional to the input usually. And also change in one part of the system can ramify unpredictably throughout the entire system. It all can exist at multiple levels of scale, and they're constantly changing, learning, evolving. And they're also subject to these phase transitions. And what I mean by that is in these complex systems, there tends to be subtle, ongoing, almost imperceptible changes that accrue in the system over time. And these can cause massive, unpredictable changes quite suddenly. However, most approaches to problem solving don't expand the problem and context frames this way. As designers, a lot of the time we actually tend to do the opposite. So we find a small solvable problem that focuses on a narrow problem space. Could be a workflow fix or a visual redesign or optimizing for some local metric. And Horace will call these tame problems. So these are problems where you have experience in solving them. You're really comfortable in that problem space and tackling these type of problems. And that's understandable. It's a safe and comfortable place to be. And so designers they see problems like this and they'll kind of be like, yeah, I got this. And these are attractive because this really tidy framing allows us to solve the problem, hit our localized measure of success, and punch the air at the end of the day. However, if we really zoom out and begin to consider the true scale of some of these problems, like I mentioned, the societal, environmental impacts, the real big picture, well, this happens. The reality of this can be pretty overwhelming and close to impossible to kind of compute. And when faced with these wicked problems, understandably, you can be faced with problem paralysis. I know that's something I face quite a lot, and it's a real challenge you can overcome. So how do we tackle such complexity? Well, it requires a radical shift in how we approach our work. And now I just want to talk about, I guess, sort of an epiphany I had in how I think about these things and how I applied it to my own work. So a couple of years ago, I was thinking about design systems. So I guess a lot of you guys are probably aware, I guess, I don't know, 3-4 years ago, there was a kind of proliferation of conversation around design systems, which is great. I think it's a great and really important thing to be talking about. And I think for me personally, when that started, I got really excited because I was thinking about, systems thinking and designers applying some of this, some of their kind of thinking and learning beyond the screen. But, in actuality, a lot of these design systems, kind of the thinking and articles that come out were, like in my mind, kind of, modern version or rebranded version of pattern libraries. So people are talking about components, buttons, lists, colors, fonts, which great, super important. But I felt like it was a bit of a missed opportunity for designers and that they were thinking quite low level, especially when you marry that with the fact that a lot of designers, you know, they talk about wanting to have impact, but yet they're focused on moving pixels around. So I was rewatching this short movie, Piers and Vessy, by Charles and Ray Eames, which they made in 1977 for IBM. I don't know if you've all seen it. It's great. Check it out. It's on YouTube. But this short film really kind of just something clicked in my brain as I was thinking about this problem. So with Piers and Vessy, it's very interesting. It's almost an art house movie, but it starts off with a fixed camera on a couple having a picnic in a park, and every 10 seconds it zooms out to the Piers and Vessy. So it goes up. You see the coastline country out of the atmosphere. Next thing you know, you're in space, looking at the galaxy. Then it kind of zooms back down and back to the couple on the ground and into the guy's hand down to a molecular level. What I liked about this, it kind of showed a fixed camera, but a moving lens. And when the lens moved, they kind of changed the frame, and which in turn can kind of really, I think, affect the scope or breadth of your thinking around what you're looking at, and opens up a kind of world of possibilities. This kind of really excited me. So yeah, I began kind of to think about applying this to my work and thinking about designing at different levels and where kind of design could add value. So I devised this framework, which I call Pixels to Planet. And here is a version of what I've been using in the mental health care system. And what this kind of shows is a system of systems. So each part is like both part of, it's kind of part of and a whole system within itself. So when I say pixels, I mean the design system, the kind of elements there. Product being the kind of various features and areas of a specific product or service. People could be like patients who are interacting with said service, and the system around their life. So, you know, where does the product exist in their life? What are the things is it interacting with? Then we got healthcare system, which is clinicians, doctors, hospitals, you know, pharma companies, health insurance. It's really vast. And this goes up and up. Like I say, you can think about it in terms of there's a ton of kind of, like I said, political sort of inputs into how healthcare trickles down, and then just kind of obviously societal impact, and there's geographical and cultural. And the little circle at the top, what I'm kind of illustrating here with this is I'm illustrating kind of, I suppose, the scale of thinking big. So if you think of someone like Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos, they think kind of interplanetary level. So that just, it kind of, I guess, gives you a framework to kind of, decide what level you want to solve a particular problem at. And who knows, I'm sure on Mars in a few years, they'll require mental health care. So there could be an opportunity for us there. But another interesting thing about this as well is to think about it over time. So it's not static, to kind of think about it, try to look back and learn from how it's evolved from the past, and kind of, try to imagine futures at these different levels, then design backwards. I just want to quickly show you some other examples of where to use this. One on the left, I use, and this is kind of just to kind of show that this approach can be agnostic to different situations. So the one, I'll talk briefly about the one I used at Facebook. This was really interesting. Ran a workshop last year in New York on the problem around borderline or gray content, which you probably hear a bit about in the news. So when someone is impacted or offended or hurt by a piece of content, but it doesn't technically meet, according to the policy, it can't technically be taken down. You have this kind of gray area and a lot of disagreement there. So we're thinking about that across the different levels. And rather than starting with designs, funnily enough, Facebook is one of those companies that does actually operate on all these levels. So there's obviously huge societal impact of various kind of design decisions that have been made in Facebook. So we kind of started by painting a vision out there at these higher levels, and then retracting it in, ended up coming up with kind of specific solutions or concepts, which we then tested. So just to wrap up, I just want to leave you guys with, I guess these are the key takeaways or thoughts around what I just spoke about. So number one, obsess over framing. Like I said, when you're faced with a problem, try to step back and think, what lens would be most beneficial for me to look at this problem through. Consider different time horizons. I think one of the most important pieces of this is actually it's not a solely design effort. I'm probably stating the obvious, but it's really all about cross-discipline collaboration and co-creation. So, as designers, when we say design-led, we don't mean we kind of own the project or leading it, but it's more about taking some of the tools and thinking and frameworks we have and opening up conversations with people who operate at these different levels of thinking and kind of bringing them in, whether it be clinicians or doctors or policymakers. These people all have different views. It's like those lenses. They're looking at the same problem just through a different lens. You've got to try and capitalize on that. Accept and embrace the complexity. It's really uncomfortable. It's really difficult, but there's a kind of a level of acceptance there that these are really gnarly problems. And I think that's something that's a really healthy thing to kind of take into this type of thinking. And then when you are kind of designing systems, like, they do need to be adaptable. And that kind of goes back to, I guess, the issue of scale and time. Don't design for static solutions that live in the present. Think about how they might evolve over time, and think about design interventions at these different levels that could help the system respond to different changes. And also, as I mentioned before, try to think beyond pixels. The bigger opportunities tend to lie there. While craft is hugely important, I think there's a lot of value and a lot of growth for designers to start applying some of their thinking in those other levels. And finally, I'd just like to say, my main message from this to designers would be just be brave. And I'm particularly speaking to young designers here. If there's large, complex problems that are meaningful to you, embrace the mess, embrace the uncomfortable feeling, make contact with people who are operating in the same problem space. So non-tech people, non-designers, and these people, like I said, often have the same overarching intention as you, but they're just looking through a different lens. And finally, I'd just like to add, if anyone's interested in this framework and wants to try it out, twist it, bend it, break it, I'd love to hear from you. And also some further reading if you're into this. Firstly, Terry Irwin, I recommend check her stuff out. She's really brilliant, smart director of transition design at Carnegie Mellon School. Really inspirational, really smart. Good book, good kind of entry-level book by Peter Marvel, Intertwinkled, talks about connecting things. And check out the Piers of 10. Like I said, it's on YouTube, or if you're like me, you have the flip book as well, which is also fun. But check it out and see if it inspires you. Thanks very much. That's me. Cheers.
Fantastic talk, Keith. Thank you so much for that. Myself and Roshan will come back into the presentation. I love hearing all about wicked problems. I think it's something that is so true in today's world, that things are just changing so frequently, aren't they? It's so hard to try and keep on top of our requirement set. We start putting our head down, we start to build and design, all of a sudden the whole world has shifted around us and we have to change again.
Yeah, totally.
And that has a big impact, doesn't it, really? So what's the future hold? What's the impact really of the future and in design, do you think?
Can you just say that again, Patrick?
So what the future of design with taking all of these wicked problems into account and designing for mental health in particular. Do you think that we're going to change? Do you think that the future is going to be one that we will all change how we design, or?
I'd like to think so. I mean, I think it'd be great to see a bigger shift in designers. Like I said, particularly young designers who graduate to move into maybe different areas. Like I say, all the biggest opportunities aren't necessarily on a screen, while most of the way we interact is with the screen. I think opportunities for impact, they require kind of an awareness of both and how they kind of are connected to each other. So you do see that happening. Like if you look at over the last 10 years in Growth.uk, for example, a huge design team, and it's very design led. And I know there's some people in Dublin who are kind of it's like moving into that space. So it'd be great to see, even at a local level here. I think we've got fantastic talent, great community. And it'd be great to see some of those people apply their smarts to kind of some of the problems we face here.
Yeah, I'm definitely seeing that in the area of service design, and one of our sort of sister groups that we have is the Service Design Network. They work with us, and we share the same meetup account, so we do promote their events. And we know Service Republic and Cork councils have been, Cork Council has been doing an awful lot in the service design space, which is amazing. Something I've noticed is, if we bring this to COVID for a moment, when we look at what the Irish government have done versus, let's say, our nearest neighbours, the UK government, and there's some wonderful discussions gone out recently around about the images, how we're getting the information out to people, comparing flatten the curve in the UK to flatten the curve in Ireland. All of our messaging has been very purposely designed, and I know there's an agency, I have to find out who the agency is, we'll have to get them on for a chat. I think design has really played a very important impact and place in COVID-19 education and awareness. And I think it's incredible to see that. It's very clear to understand what we have to do at the right times, and that goes across text and audio and visuals and so on. I think they've done a great job. I'll forever be haunted by yellow. That's the only thing.
It's funny. That's an interesting design decision. But I think, to your point, I think we talk about communication. It's communication design, essentially, there. We were talking about the UK. But to my earlier point, it doesn't exist in a vacuum. Like that's being communicated within a political system, and they have their own goals and motivations, which then influence how that communication goes out. So there's kind of several layers to it, and it's the kind of tricky one. I think there's almost a parent-child relationship sometimes with those levels. That if you could have noble intent, but if you exist within a bigger system that has questionable motives, then it's difficult sometimes. That's why you have to move up a level.
And actually, we do have some questions coming in from the audience here, and what you've just said there is reminded me of one of them. And so it says here, it's from Emma. She says, "Love Keith's planets to pixels way of defining what level to tackle a problem. Is zooming out a difficult sell, or how does that work?"
Good question. It depends. Like to the point I made earlier, I think it depends on who you speak with, who you kind of who you're working with. You got to be working with the right people. Or so if I, for example, I'll think about mental health care and mobile. Okay, so if I talk about let's say go up a couple of levels, I talk about the healthcare system, and how that works and how we can kind of improve things there. I mean, it's kind of pointless me sitting in a room with a couple of designers and engineers. I mean, we might have some good ideas, but they're going to have very localized impact. So for me, I would go and speak to our chief clinical officer, because she thinks at that level. She's in the healthcare system. She can kind of hook to those people. And that's where you'll kind of find the levers where you can kind of design around.
Nice. Great. Let me see if we have any other questions here. Yeah, so we have one from Andra here, and they say, "Re Keith's lenses theory. As a designer, how do you make others look through your lens?"
What was the first? You said something theory. What was the word?
Lenses theory.
Oh, okay. I think, from my experience, it's kind of showing the value of design, possibly stating the obvious. But like I said, design can be many things. I'm not sure if they're specifically talking about digital design or product design, but I think I'll use that as an example. Actually, if I talk about something where you're kind of executing on a kind of pixel level, I think if someone operates in a different function or is kind of leadership or whatever, you kind of need to make sure you kind of join the dots of the levels, so that knowing what they care about and what they're trying to achieve, and trying to join the dots between that and what you're doing. I think I said this earlier, but design doesn't exist in a vacuum, and that's really dangerous. It's a really dangerous thing, I think, if you do that and you kind of trying to, go solo or whatever. You need to understand the wider context of the system you're operating in, which could be a company, could be a, whatever. But I hope that makes sense.
It did, yeah. Thanks for that. Really helpful.
Fantastic.
And I think we're up on time, are we, Patrick?
We certainly are. Keith, I really, really appreciate you taking part and taking the time out to join us this evening and prepare your presentation. Really appreciate it. And just to the entire audience, that all of our talks will be available for replay for 48 hours after today's event. And then in a few weeks' time, we'll make them available as standalone talks, so you can replay them back as many times on our YouTube Rewind channel. So, Keith, thank you so much, and we will. Yeah,
thanks, guys. Really enjoyed that, and I'm looking forward to the other talks. Thank you.
Indeed. Okay. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thanks, Keith.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah.
Roisin, halfway through. We are at the halfway mark.
We are.
So
flying by. Absolutely flying by.
They are, aren't they? And again, get your comments through and your questions on Slido. I am seeing more coming through here, so do get them in advance, and we are going to be relying heavily on Slido. Do we have any good comments hitting us from YouTube?
Yes, we do indeed. Yeah. Particularly for Aimée-Louise's, we had a lot of stuff around empowerment. So great empowering. The app looks fabulous. Yeah. Let me see here. Another one about power. I think that's really, something that's worth talking about, Patrick. Being empowered to look after your mental health, and that is so important. And I really feel that Aimée-Louise's app is enabling that.
It is. There's something she said at the very start was, whilst 1 in 4 of us, and as Keith said, 18%, may go through some form of mental health problem, issue, encounter, we all have mental health, and that's it. We all have mental health. And we have to be empowered to recognize it, nurture it, help it, look out for the signals, but we all have it. So yeah, it's giving yourself permission.
Yeah, absolutely. Some nice things coming in here about, particularly this one I think is quite interesting, showing that the problem is more systematic. Yeah. That's really interesting. And, it's really looking and harkening back to that kind of idea of service design and looking at the end-to-end broader picture and all the different moving parts, and really nice.
Yeah, I agree. Fantastic. Loads of comments coming through, which is great.
Absolutely, tons.
I think at this stage we will see, can we bring in our next speaker. I'm just going to go and have a look at the rundown. It's always good to bring it back up on screen again. Again, we want to remind everyone that we have a giveaway this evening, so you can go to Twitter. We're looking for the most exciting, most engaging photographs that you can share of how you were watching this evening's event. So we're looking forward to that. We're just about on time, so we're going to bring in Kathryn now in a moment, and then we'll move into part 2. We have Piers, we've got Vessy, and then we're going to get into the community moment. If you do want to take to the stage this evening and take part in that community moment, do send us a DM on Twitter. I know Frank is going through those at the moment. We're lining up some speakers to come on in around about 55 minutes time. So the stage will all be yours to talk about whatever you want for a minute or so. So with that, I do want to remind everyone that today's event is pretty serious in topic, and there is help available. We are not trained professionals in this area itself, so there are numbers there on screen and a URL that you can go to for additional support, and do take advantage of that. Okay, let's have a look and see, can we bring in Kathryn? Kathryn, are you live?
Yeah, hi Patrick, can you hear me?
Fantastic, we certainly can. This is great. And thank you so much. From your home to ours, you're connected into the stream. How have you been coping in lockdown?
Very well. I think as an introvert, it kind of suited me. I live in the countryside with I have a young daughter and husband, and we were quite liking our little commune that we had going on here, starting to branch out a little bit. But it's I work from home anyway, so it was quite easy for me. What made it more difficult was having to try and do a bit of schoolwork and having a husband from a learning background as well. So it kind of broke up the routine. But after a few weeks, we settled down, and we're in it for the long haul now.
Do you know what? That's it. It's about getting comfortable with this. We don't know, will there be a second wave, a third wave? At the moment, we're in phase 2. We all could be returning back to a form of an office at some point. We don't know, but it could come back. As I say to my own team, just get yourself comfortable at home. Make sure that we can adjust very quickly and get back into this at some point in the future, because it could happen. And I like that. You're in the commune. Do you know what? I felt the very same. I had a little cocoon of safety built around me, and I like that. And no one's going to come in, so I think it's fantastic. Kathryn, thank you so much for taking part this evening, and I really want to give a big thanks to Technology Ireland Software Skillnet for sponsoring today's event with our wonderful prizes. So really appreciate that. I think it's a great for you to take part, and great for us to give back to the community as well. But you are here for a reason. You're going to tell us about your collaboration and your connections with IADT.
Yeah, I am, and I'm delighted. Thanks for the opportunity to support such a brilliant cause, and fair play for putting on this production tonight. It's been going really, really well, and very interactive. So bodes well for the future. Just before I kind of give our little spiel on what Technology Ireland Software Skillnet do, I probably was struck by when we spoke last week about. I was going, how is UX and my mental health? What is the connection there? And it kept coming back to me, and you know, it's very close to my home. It's very close to many people's homes, but it's just really relevant about how UX and the internet, how we need to look at it in a different way. For me, the internet was just a quick source of information, how I bought things. And it just didn't occur to me, and hands up, it didn't occur to me how critical it could be for supporting and as an outlet for mental health. And it makes sense now. I get it. It makes sense now that, you know, people may look for ways to explore their feelings, and it's actually a frontline support, and for so many people now, and how we engage with it, how open and you know, with no barriers there is just really, really important. And I think, as you know, and what we do all the time is we're trying finding ways to kind of keep pushing the IT sector and creating training networks, and probably this audience and everyone that's watching here tonight has been never more important in maintaining that personal touch. And it's almost maybe not for you UX people, but it's a responsibility for supporting the well-being and the mental health of everyone around us. So I applaud everyone for that. Well done.
It is. I completely agree. We have great responsibilities as designers, as professionals in technology, with the software that we build and ship. And we do have to design for diversity and inclusion. And mental health is one of those areas that we do have to design for. And there's a wonderful thing about designing against the fringes and the edge cases. How can software be abused? If we push something out for good, how could it be abused that it could actually be impacting people's mental health, and making sure that we put safeguards in place? So we've got great responsibility as designers. Yeah, completely agree.
Yeah. Well, so I'm the program manager with Software Skillnet, and I look after all of their suite of academic programs and in-house training programs, and we spend a lot of time working with their member companies on emerging technologies. And trying to work with everyone from the IDA to IBEC to IT skills companies, trying to make sure that any of their skills gaps and their future skills requirements are fulfilled. So we're the national training network for the Digital and Technology Skills Network in Ireland. We're led by Technology Ireland, but we have, it says 200 tech companies there. It's probably close to 300 now. And what we're finding is technology is not just your typical Dell type of company. There's technology in every sector now and cross sectors. So we're really finding new market now. We're finding new member companies coming through from everything from manufacturing to hospitality and retail. So it's very much a growing place for us right now. And what we do, we get funding ultimately from the government and from the tech sector companies, and we try and replace that back into the industry by just, it could be off the shelf training, but more so what we're good at is designing really bespoke, customized training for companies and for groups of people who need to get more familiar with emerging technologies, or just to need to rapidly reskill, which is what we're finding the impact of COVID has been.
Of course.
If we just move on to the next slide, it just shows you the suite of products that we have. And the UX design program, we have a master's and postgrad in that, and that's really what I want. Many of your audience may have gone through and maybe graduates from those programs, but we're also always looking to find new recruits, and it could be from people who are already very established in the industry and just want to get the accreditation for that qualification and for that experience. But what we're really finding now with the just resurgence of design in the digital sector is that we're getting people coming in from different modes and different sectors. So everyone from product managers to CEOs that are trying to find out how do I sell my product, and how do I engage with people. And the genesis from our programs came from we are the output from what our member companies are telling us to do. And several years ago, they came to us and they said, Ireland is booming with technology right now. We've got lots of really innovative tech companies, but unless we find out a way to engage and interact with people, our tech and our expertise is just going to be, and that whole investment is going to be hid under a bushel. So we set to work with IADT and Andrew Erity over there to create and design. They already had a certificate and to create and design the postgrad and master's programs. And we're able to grant aid and subsidize the cost of people joining those programs. It's a 2-year postgrad program, and as I said, it's aimed at people from a design, but even more so an adjacent background. And anyone who has that view and that perspective and mindset on how to a lot of people who are very interested in the research side of things, the psychology side of things, and the real strategy of building a product and that long-term engagement with people. So that's what our program does. We're close to subscription now, but we're kind of creating capacity all the time because it's definitely a growth area for us. The next slide just shows you some of our modules and kind of the life cycle that you'll be taken through as you get to join the program. It's supposed to provide an insight across the whole range of contexts, and provide you with the tools required to get a better understanding of the end user requirements and the feelings and the skills required to design and to delight the customer. And there's no exams. It's very much module based and project based, but very much at the heart of the theme that's going through is how do you strategize and make plans for user experience design and development in the long term. And that's what we do. And we're able to provide 25% grant aid on that. So if that's the area, the field that you're interested in, we're open for business now. What the process is that I will speak to everyone just to kind of assess your suitability to the program based on my understanding and IADT's understanding of the type of class that they want to create. We have a lot of industry sponsors and a lot of industry interest in the people that are running through these programs. So it's very successful and genuinely one of our growth programs. So if anyone on this call is interested in this UX program, or indeed any of the products that we have, we provide a lot of largely grant aided or even a number of free programs, including women returner programs and really strategic, I would say cutting edge initiatives that are there to set Ireland and maintain it on such a positive footing that it has in the tech industry at the moment. So there's my details. Feel free to contact me directly or even through Patrick, and I'll be delighted to introduce the program to you.
That's exactly it. Your email is there. You can, of course, send us a direct message at Dublin_UX, and we'll certainly pass them over your way. A question, with this remote setup that we have, how are IADT adopting or changing? Are they going to run the program remote, or are they going to sort of stagger it a little bit?
Yeah, we're going live. They concluded, I guess, the 2019-2020 season remotely, and via Zoom. And even now that we have a little bit of breathing space in the summer, just coming up with more creative and innovative ways to hold the classes. You'd expect for a design class that it might be a little bit of challenge when people like getting around whiteboards and with their post-its. But there's lots of breakout rooms and different methodologies that they're exploring at the moment, just to keep recreating that that kind of classroom effect and that interaction that takes place. We've concluded a different type of a women returner program, and it was the first time that it went virtual. And you're dealing with women that have been out of the workplace for so long, and we managed to maintain such camaraderie and closeness and interaction in a virtual environment. So it's very successful.
It definitely can be done. It can be done. Yeah.
We have some great comments coming in from our listeners here, or viewers, who are saying that they're currently doing the masters and having a brilliant time, a fantastic program. So yeah, there's the proof for you guys. Your fellow community members have attended and got great value. So
I can certainly attest.
Great to hear the feedback.
Kathryn, thank you so much again for coming on this evening and talking, and also for supporting the event this month as well. Really, really appreciate it. We got some great prizes to give away in less than 1 hour's time. So thank you again for your partnership with this evening's event, and we'll definitely pass over any direct messages or comments directly to you. So do reach out to us if you do want to learn more, or contact Kathryn directly. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Brilliant. Bye-bye now. Fantastic. Okay, we are going to be moving on. Let's have a little look. Do we have any other interesting comments coming through on YouTube before we move on? I think we can have a moment just to take a little reset.
Yeah, we have Kev OC saying haunted by yellow, talking about the coronavirus stuff there, no doubt. A nice, interesting one here from John. Maybe he's in New York, I'm not sure, but I really love to see this careful consideration of context within which a product works. He's talking about their Keith's comments, his talk, really interesting. Looks like lots of people
that's John Lynch. We know John very, very well from so hey John.
Love the powers of 10. Apparently very recommended watching and reading. So
that's
brilliant.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Good, wonderful. Yeah, lots of comments. That's great. Again, keep the comments. We do like to bring them in, and it's nice to be connected with the community. This is a little bit different for us. We're just watching the stream here, so it's great to see the feeds and the comments and the questions.
That's it.
We're going to move on. We're going to bring in Piers. So I'm just going to. There we are. You're connected, Piers. You're live. How are you?
Hi. How are you?
Very, very, very well. Thank you so much for joining this evening.
I've never been so nervous in my own house. I don't know what you're doing to me.
Do not say that. Do not say that. You're in the company of friends. It's just the three of us having a chat. You forget
What's
about
the
everyone
worst
else.
that can happen?
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. Piers, you're no stranger to Dublin UX. This is your second time speaking, and the last time you did it live. That's more intimidating. Yeah. So you did very well.
I don't know. Last time I could just blank out people's faces and just look over them. Now I can actually see what people are typing, which is terrifying. So please don't heckle me. I'm sensitive.
Well, I'm going to do the formalities. So, Piers, again, is no stranger to Dublin UX. You do come with your own fan base as well. So all the Piers fans out there, a big shout out. You are user insights lead with Rothco and Accenture Interactive, where you lead research and strategy projects with Rothco's creative products department. And also at Rothco, you're responsible for arranging, conducting, and analyzing the qualitative and quantitative design research, designing customer-focused strategies and services for the agency's clients. And you're going to take us on a little bit of a personal journey here, the mental health model.
Yeah. I'm going to talk about something that I haven't really spoken about before. Anytime I've ever spoken before, I've always spoken about design stuff, and I've had slides and stuff, and
Yes,
I can kind of make it up and illustrate whatever. I'm not going to. I'm just going to tell a personal story and kind of pretty much just what I learned about my own brain in the last few months. That's really it. There's no grand takeaways. There's no great lessons for design in this. It's more just about it's about you as a designer, understanding how your brain works, and then just having a bit of empathy for yourself when things do get tough and you do need a bit of help, and how you can get it.
That's it, giving yourself permission. I completely agree. Would you like to share your screen and we can bring your slides up?
I will. Let's see if I can do this without making a fool of myself.
And of course, please continue to use slido.com. Dublin UX is our hashtag. We'll be collecting the questions and we'll have a good panel discussion towards the end. So slido.com, hashtag Dublin UX. I can see your screen.
Excellent.
Wonderful.
So I did a bit of Pride for, it's obviously Pride Month, so obviously a bit of rainbow.
That's
bit
right.
of rainbow colours in there.
Right. Well done. Well done. Right, Piers, we're going to leave you in the capable hands of the Dublin UX audience, and we'll be back at the end of your talk. So best of luck.
Cool. Thank you very much. Yeah. Hello, everybody. So I'm just going to take you through, as I was saying to Patrick there, I'm just going to take you through a personal journey of mine. It's really strange. I was putting together these slides, and it's really, really strange putting together slides about your brain, rather than slides about design stuff or kind of research or theories. So I put no design effort into these. It's more just a guide to understand thought process and anything else. And really what I want to do is I want to talk about an event that happened to me back in September. It's basically 30 minutes of my life that sort of helped me understand how my brain works, but also help me understand what I can do when I need help. Now, there's nothing triggering in what I'm about to say. There's nothing too sensitive in what I'm about to say. So I'm just going to talk about anxiety, maybe a little bit of depression, but mostly about anxiety. And my key takeaway in terms of this is when you need help and how to understand where you can get help, how you can get help, but also just understand how your brain works and how your brain responds to specific situations. So being aware of your own mental health, being aware of how you think in certain situations, and then understanding different elements that might affect your brain. So for example, I always knew, and I think anybody who knows me knows that I've always been quite an anxious person, and there's strengths and weaknesses in that. And then back in September, I had an anxiety attack. Now, I haven't had an anxiety attack in about 20 years. The last one I had, I think I was a kid and I was in Stephen's Green at night, and I got freaked out that I could look up at the ceiling and just see blackness. There's no sky, there's no sunlight. So I had a genuine anxiety attack. And I didn't have one for 20 years. And then suddenly, because of various circumstances in my life at the time, I had the strangest out-of-body experience, which resulted in me spending a few months actually just thinking about my brain, understanding how that works, and getting help for situations where I needed a bit of help. And coming out of that, which I'll tell you about in a minute, coming out of that, I ended up having a lot of discussions with people about mental health, or just about their mind, about their brain. And understanding that everybody has a situation where they weren't quite themselves, they didn't quite feel themselves. And some of those are quite serious situations, others not, but still concerning. It's still worth taking time to look at and to explore. And one of the things that I realized about myself, and so I think about the language that we use, I know Keith was talking about the importance of language as well, is that we talk about mental health, but we don't talk about physical health. So for example, we don't say to somebody, I'm not physically well at the moment. We tell them what's wrong. You know, I have a headache, or I have an injury, I have a scratch, whatever it is. We talk about physical health in terms of specifically what's wrong with us. But when we talk about mental health, we talk about it in a binary sense. We're either mentally healthy or we're not. And I think in understanding the different kind of ailments that can affect your mind helps you understand what is wrong, what's happening to you at any given point, whether you're stressed and you're just stressed in that moment, or if you're stressed and it's something bigger, maybe it's something you need to look at a little bit more. Understanding that mental health is not a binary state, that it is analog, that there are different states of being mentally healthy. One of my friends described it as mental fitness. You know, you can talk about your physical fitness, and sometimes you're in your prime, sometimes you're not. We can talk about mental fitness. Sometimes, you know, it's great. You're working as you think you should, and then at other times you're not. You're maybe struggling a bit. Maybe something you can get through yourself. Maybe something that you need to talk to somebody about, friend, family member, or maybe something you need to get medication for or clinical help for. Understanding that mental health is not a binary state, that there are different stages within it, and that you go up and down. Throughout your life, you will go up and down, and you will never be mentally completely healthy at every point. I think in understanding that, and certainly for myself, and understanding that myself, I have been able to prevent myself from falling into situations that would have caused me concern or trouble in the past, and helped me understand myself a little bit better and manage situations in my life in a kind of stronger way, what I think is a slightly more healthy way, or more appropriate way for myself. And I want to talk about this at the moment because, and I put up this tweet quite recently, I've had, apropos of nothing, I've had 3 friends in one 24-hour period message me or just talk to me about the fact that they weren't feeling themselves. I obviously think that that's part of the coming out of lockdown, there's the anxiety around the current situation. Coming out of that, you know, what I'm seeing is, or certainly what I'm experiencing is that, you know, friends of mine, family members of mine are just, they're thinking about themselves, they're thinking about their mental health at the moment. It's, you know, and now is a stressful time. And, you know, just thinking about yourself and being maybe a little bit selfish, saying, what do I need in this moment is perfectly okay to do, especially given the general, you know, gestures to everything, the general situation that's happening out there. So what I want to do is tell you a specific story that happened to me back in September. And I think it was about September 12th to 13th, I can't remember the exact date. So I work in Smithfield and I commute in and out of town from Connolly Station. So if you're familiar with Dublin, you'll know that it's essentially, I think it's a 2-kilometre walk from Connolly Station to Smithfield. And it's pretty much a direct walk. It's a single straight line from one to the other. Mostly down Henry Street, Mary Street. Single straight line, you cannot get lost on the route. Back in September, I was working on 2 or 3 projects at the time. They were quite big projects. It was a stressful period in work. We had a lot of deadlines. We were trying to get a lot of stuff done. And it was go, go, go. At the same time, a family member of mine was quite ill. Now they've gotten better since, but it was a stressful time. I couldn't take a break in work, and equally I couldn't when I went home take a break because I was doing other things as well. So I kind of had this weird point where the only break I had in terms of just being able to kind of switch off mentally was the commute in and out of town. And then one day after a particularly big presentation, I decided I was going to walk home. Well, actually, just walk down Henry Street, go straight home. And I had what was later described to me as a dissociative anxiety attack. So essentially what happened to me was this. As I was walking down Henry Street, which was literally just 600 meters, I forgot where I was, who I was, what I was doing on at least 2 or 3 occasions. And I actually don't remember how many occasions. So I had this strange out-of-body experience where I was doing something that I literally did every day, and I had no idea what I was doing. Like you walk into a room and you forget why you went in there. I was just walking home and I had no clue what was happening, what I was doing. I'd love to see CCTV footage of it to see whether I was, did I just stop walking? Did I pause? What did I do? Because it usually takes me 20 minutes to walk from work to Connolly. This took me about 35, 40 minutes to do that. So nearly twice the time. I have no idea what happened in those extra 15, 20 minutes. So kind of a worrying and strange situation for me, and something that just happened to my brain quite suddenly. And based on that, I continued working. I had another 2 weeks of the project that I was working on. Continued working on that, and I just said it to a friend of mine. I was like, "This strange thing happened to me the other day. You'll never believe it." And they said to me, "Yeah, you had an anxiety attack. You actually had an anxiety attack. You should probably figure that out." Which I didn't believe. I didn't like. I've had anxiety attacks before. They're more. My heart was usually racing. There are other physical effects to that. So I did a bit of research on it. I looked it up and said, actually, do you know what? This was something more serious than just a weird event that happened to me one random Wednesday. So based on that, I went into work and I spoke to my office and I said, look, I think this is happening to me. I think I might need to get some help. And the first thing they said to me was, go home, go to your doctor, have a chat with them, which I did. And I've never spoken to my doctor about my brain before. I've always spoken about physical problems or whatever it is, but I've never spoken about my brain before. So I went into my doctor, had a chat, and basically bawled my eyes out for an hour. I spent an hour sitting in front of my doctor just crying, explaining my situation, what was happening. And he did two things. He signed me off of work, and he put me on sleeping tablets, which just to help me get to sleep, so I could help turn my brain off. So I then went back to work, and I said, look, doctor signed me off for 2 weeks, and they said, great, go home, take the 2 weeks, take whatever time you need, just take care of yourself. Which I was very lucky for. I mean, I have to say I'm very lucky that I have an employer that just told me, go home, take care of yourself. And I had a manager who would check up with me every few days, just to see how I was doing. Not talk about work, not talk about projects, just how are you doing, what's going on? Which was great, because that took a lot of the pressure off of me. In the process of understanding, of kind of thinking about what happened to me, I could, at the time it was very confusing, but currently what way I'm thinking about it now is that was my brain warning me that things were getting bad, that I needed to take a bit of time because I was stressed from work, because we had so many deadlines and big projects, because I was stressed at home, that everything had kind of created this perfect storm, and my brain responded in a way to help me, which didn't feel like help at the time, but to help me manage that situation. And it's only that I was able to talk about it, and I spoke about it with friends and ultimately with professionals and my colleagues, that I was able to go, right, here's what I need to do in order to get better. In the 2 weeks that I was signed off, and ultimately I was signed off for about 6 weeks in total. In the first 2 weeks that I was signed off, I wrote a message to one of my friends. I just told them what was going on. And they phoned me about a minute after I wrote it to them. They said, I have no idea what you just said. The message you wrote made absolutely no sense in any way. And I read it back, and it was literally like some kind of Kafkaesque novel in WhatsApp. I have no idea what I wrote. But again, another sign that my brain just needed space to kind of readjust and fix itself. In this situation, this was 30 minutes of my, or sorry, 15, 20 minutes of my life. Those 15 minutes were probably some of the most important, certainly in the last few years of my life, in helping me understand how my brain works, but also what am I capable of? What is my brain capable of in terms of the level of stress that I can take on, how I respond to that situation? What are the warning signs? Because certainly in thinking about it since then, I've been able to recognize warning signs of how is my anxiety showing? You know, my diet was affected, my level of exercise was affected, my concentration was affected as well. I was able to notice those signs, and in noticing those signs in retrospect, I have since been able to spot them when they started reoccurring, let's say, in the first few months of this year. And in doing that, able to respond before things became more serious, or before things repeated themselves. So all of this is a way of saying to you as a designer listening to this, watching this, we all have mental and emotional strengths and weaknesses. We all have ways of dealing with certain situations. They're different. We know what they are, and we can learn how to respond to them. If you are stressed, if you are a designer and you are stressed, there are ways and means of getting support, and the support exists out there. And knowing how your brain works, knowing how your brain responds to situations is an incredibly powerful tool to help you prevent situations from becoming serious. It allows you to understand how are you going to respond to a typical situation? What are you going to do? And it's a power. It's certainly a strength that can help you. Again, I say it's empathy for yourself, just understanding how do you respond to situations as a person, and how can you use that to help you prevent those situations from reoccurring. Because once you can understand that, you can mitigate it, you can respond to it, and you can work your way around those situations to support yourself. And one thing I'd say is that certainly for me, because I think more out of curiosity ended up talking about the situation to friends and family and to colleagues as well. More of them have opened up to me in terms of what they're going through, situations that they've had in the past. I ended up having a conversation with my oldest friend, who I've been friends with since primary school. And she was telling me about, her situation, what she was doing, and kind of the stress that she was under. And those are incredibly powerful situations. It's hugely powerful to know that what's happening in your brain is happening in other people's brains, and there's systems and processes out there to help you recover from that. Either you can do it yourself in terms of using systems like Wobot, which I've actually been using over the past week, and I'd certainly recommend. Or whether you need to go talk to a counselor, or just do something else that can support you, that can give you the space and time to breathe and think that you need. But certainly having empathy for yourself, I think, is something that we don't do as designers. We are by nature thinking about what other people are doing and thinking and behaving. Maybe we're not necessarily doing this about ourselves, which we really, really should. Yeah. So in all of this, and what I've learned over the past 6 months, 7 months of this, is that you don't have to have the answers if you are stressed or working in situations which aren't easy. You can talk to others, you can get support. It's there. I mean, certainly there are problems in terms of the cost of receiving counselling, but even doing something like just understanding how you need to respond to a situation and being a little bit selfish and taking time for yourself, I think, is incredibly powerful, and it will do you will do you some good. So look, just to finish up, I will say this lovely quote from Viktor Frankl, who studied suicide and depression in the past, and what he says, that in suffering we can find meaning. And certainly I found meaning in those terrifying 15 minutes of my life back in September, and they have helped me since. That is not to say I haven't had panic attacks since, but I have been able to respond to them in a better way than I previously would have. And the next one that I might have, I will respond in a more positive way to that as well. So I'll finish up by saying, have empathy for yourself. If you are stressed, if you are worried, find people you can talk to. If you believe that somebody you know is worried or stressed, reach out to them. Start a conversation. And when I say conversation, do talk to them. Just start small, have a chat with them, and keep the chat going until you're satisfied that they're okay. But above all, just look after yourself and have empathy for yourself. That's it. That's all I got, guys.
Pierce, exactly. Look after yourself. That's really what you got to do. You got to give yourself permission and look after yourself. Thank you so much for opening up. Really, it's difficult, of course, telling your personal story, something that happened quite recently, of course. And by the sounds of it, you had a great support network there, and you were able to talk with them, and for you to come to that realization that I'm having an anxiety attack here.
Yeah.
So it's a eureka moment, isn't it? And again, I'm going to keep going back to that message that we got from the very start from Aimée-Louise. We all have mental health. And at certain points, things are going to change with that mental health. And for you, it changed quite significantly with having this associative sort of panic attack.
Yeah.
Great talk. Thank you so much. You're going to stick around. We're going to have a little Q&A towards the end. There are some questions coming through for you already. Roisin, have you got any questions so far?
Yeah, we do. I might just ask you one, Piers, because it's really confusing me. I'm not really entirely sure what this person is asking, but maybe you might know. It's from Lar, and they say, "Hi, Piers. Who was your favorite colleague while at E&O?"
Of course, that was, of course, and I have to say this because Lara asked the question. That was Ella. She's amazing.
Okay. Well, obviously you knew what Lar meant by that question, so thanks for that. Hopefully that answers your question, Lar.
I'm going to kill Lar.
There you are. Anyway, Piers, thank you so much. We'll be back with you in about 15-20 minutes, and we bring you in for the closing conversation then. Okay, thank you so much again. Good. Wonderful. Oisin, the night is flying by, isn't it? Can you believe we've been on almost 1 hour, 45 minutes at this stage? The time really goes by too quickly, doesn't it?
Yeah, crazy. Learning so much and just getting so encouraged by people telling their stories and, really just feeling really good about it.
That's it. Have we got time to have a look at any questions from YouTube?
We don't have any questions, but we do have a lot of support for Piers sharing his story. Yeah. It is extremely difficult to share your story and, be brave about that because, it is opening up those conversations. Like he said, he did have, his own colleagues and friends reaching out to him. So hopefully, it is showing the power behind that. So yeah, just lots of messages of support from the community. So thank you so much for sharing, Piers.
Yeah, thank you so much. Right, we shall move swiftly on. And as a reminder, we do have a community moment. We do have some people lined up already, so thank you so much. It's never too late. You can always send us a message on Twitter or DM, and we can always bring you into our stage in around about 20 minutes or so. And of course, as a reminder, we're getting close to choosing a winner. We're going to be closing this one, as it says here in the small print, at 10:02. So you've got about 6 minutes left to get your photograph in. That's, of course, if you're watching this live, and in typical sort of broadcasting, do not vote if you're watching this on +1 or on demand. So your vote will not be counted. You have to say that. Right, let's move swiftly on. We are going to be talking to Vessy. I'm going to bring Vessy in. Let's bring Vessy into the conversation here. Vessy, how are you?
Great. Thanks for having me. How are you?
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure. It really, really is.
Absolutely.
And overdue. We were talking about this in the build-up that I think we were strategizing about your talk of various topics almost 2 years ago. At this stage, we had a conversation in one of the after parties from one of the events. But we got here.
It was actually on how to use the jobs to be done framework on hiring and retention, and knowing how to build your employer branding around that. So completely different topic. Different
topic, but it's definitely a very relevant topic, and I'm very excited to hear you talk today as well. I'm just going to give your background because it's an incredible background. I've been watching in awe at really you build a brand over the last few years with the incredible work you're doing with your diversity and inclusion report, and also the wonderful topics and live streams that you do on YouTube as well, or sorry, on LinkedIn. They're actually LinkedIn. So it's incredible work that you're doing. It definitely goes noticed, and congratulations. You're doing a stellar job. So Vessy's founder of Vessy.com, a culture, diversity and inclusion consultancy operating from here in Dublin with clients across Europe and North America. Within the first 12 months of launching your company, Vessy started working on SoundCloud, Heineken, EY, Social Innovation Fund Ireland, International School of Business, Zalando, to name but a few. You've authored 2 editions of your independent international diversity in the workplace report, and you do some incredible launches of those events. I've watched those streams featuring 10 companies across 10 different territories and countries. The 2020 edition will have 10 companies from 10 industries, and that's at Vessy.com/2020. Vessy was named by Hive Learning as one of 2019's most influential D&I leaders globally. In April 2020, Vessy launched a video course on inclusive leadership on social talent, where it's ranked as number 2. So very well done in the month of May. And in the last 10 years, you've worked as Chief Strategy Officer of a talent tech startup and previous roles across product marketing and culture. And I think that diversity of background is really what we're going to hear about today and take us through a wonderful journey. We do have a little bit of a sort of an action for our viewers, don't we?
We do.
Bring this up. Here we are here.
So you've been, you heard a lot about how some of the speakers have been feeling or like talking about mental health overall. But if you go to bit.ly/mood003, you will see Moodlight, and we can plot, basically, you can put down what are your emotions, the emotions that you feel right now. And as everyone selects, it's a really smooth tool. You can use the emojis to kind of navigate at the start and then select from the emotions on the right side. So as you select that, it will show you where everyone else is right now. So let's take a moment. I'll share my screen.
Please do. Yeah, share your screen and then we can bring it up. That'd be fantastic.
Yeah. Awesome. So you can see my screen, yeah?
Yes, indeed.
So I'm keeping an eye on the results. So we see some people are feeling enthusiastic, encouraged, connected. That's great, because when I saw I was last on the list of speakers, I was thinking everyone will be tired. So it's great to see. Okay, people can keep an eye on this and just see how everyone is feeling at the moment. I'll be talking on mental health from the perspective of diversity and inclusion. Okay, people feeling exhausted, yeah, valued, content. Fantastic to see. It's a great tool to start the meeting or any discussion. So I'll be talking on the topic of mental health through the perspective, the angle of culture and diversity and inclusion. When in 2019, I launched the first report that I authored. You can check it out here. Lots of interesting companies part of it, like Marvo, the designing app, ThoughtWorks, etc. There is a chapter in here dedicated on how we designed the report as an inclusive report, in the sense of how we picked the fonts, like the icons, colors, everything, like spacing. So when you go to the full list of tools and resources, you can see accessibility, readability, contrast, and impaired vision. I'm sure most of you are familiar with those things, but I thought I should give it a shout. And the second report, as Patrick mentioned, it was featuring 10 companies from 10 different industries. And here we were seeing a much bigger focus on mental health. And that was really interesting. So in the 2019 report, when I was asking the different organizations where diversity and inclusion fits in terms of areas of interest for them, it was the 12th area. So, imagine like gender, LGBTQ, race, ethnicity, etc., etc., etc. People with disabilities, and mental health was like at the bottom. In the new report, it was ranking in 7th position, and I was like, wow, that's quite a jump just in a year's time. And then that was first Q of the year. Second Q, it was the number one thing. Number 2 was like remote working and things like that. But it was really interesting that the majority of employees are not just like, oh yeah, mental health is, it's just interesting to follow some stuff, but it's a priority for them. And that made it a priority for the organizations. We all need empathy. We all need to look after ourselves. It's like Piers was saying, everyone has mental health, what Aimée was saying earlier. So when we think about that, I guess sometimes mental health can be a bit abstract, especially if we're not too much into it, like let's say professionally, or maybe we don't focus too much on mental fitness or mental health. How does it actually translate for the individual? That's that's when we feel calm and confident and creative and connected. And by the way, all of those are in the emotional map we just did. So it's very interesting to go back to it and map our emotions in general, even for ourselves. Don't have to be in a meeting to do that. So, where we are in terms of like feeling compassionate, courageous, and this is what allows us to be productive and to be engaged and to learn fast as employees. When we're in, clear-headed, that's when we learn fast. So
it's a great way of seeing it.
Yeah, and when we think about, okay, what created this push from Q1 to Q2? That's just a matter of a few months. What contributed to anxiety, stress, and depression? We all know it's the lockdowns, followed by Black Lives Matter. But what does that mean? Like, it actually created a mental health crisis. The UN talked about it. Like, any country that we look at has skyrocketing numbers and need for support of helplines and things like that. And what specifically contributed there was, in the first part of the lockdowns, it was the isolation. And now it's the post-isolation syndrome. We'll talk about this in a little bit. What many of us, or most maybe white people, were not thinking about is how Black Lives Matter impacts the health of Black people, their Black colleagues, their Black friends, maybe Black relatives, and it's PTSD. So I really like this one. So when you have experienced racism, even once in your life, it's a type of trauma. So every microaggression causes PTSD symptoms. So imagine with the everything happening right now as a movement, everything that is being shared online, the need for those things, for people to need to go to protest and to post and be outspoken, it's extremely triggering. It's absolutely exhausting, and we absolutely need to look after ourselves, and we also need to look after our Black friends and Black colleagues. So it's a reminder, but something that as we were going through the lockdown, and I was doing like a psychological first aid training, something that really stood out for me is like the power of staying connected or feeling connected. And it was one of the emotions we saw at the start. And this sense of feeling connected is what helps us manage anxiety, stay in the here and now. It protects us from a potential PTSD, or decreases the impact of potential future PTSD that can be developed. It protects us from burnout. And there are many ways we can feel connected, but I wanted to share one specific way to do it. It's by writing a gratitude letter. So think about someone who you really respect, and they made a big, like they had a big impact on your life. They helped you in whatever way, and you never properly thanked them. Maybe you never said thanks for whatever reason, or maybe you did it a bit in a rush, or maybe it was more of a habit. Oh yeah, thanks. So sit down, take a few minutes, or maybe half an hour, whatever time you need, and write this gratitude letter to put everything, like how you really think and feel about it, and say thanks. And it's really important to reach out to the person, and you don't have to send it over. You can schedule some time, try to meet them in person if it's possible, and read the letter to them. You won't just feel connected. You will feel extremely happy, and it's something that will impact your happiness for the next 6 months. And just as importantly, this is how it will impact them. Yeah, that's a very simple and effective technique. Vessy, what we're going to do, we're going to give the stage over to you at this point in time, and myself and Roisin, we will exit for a while. No problem. During your talk today, again, we're going to be asking everyone to submit questions on Slido.com, #Dublin UX, and we will go to some questions at the end. So Vessy, over to you. Thank you so much. Thank you. I took the lead over a little bit. I just went through the talk. That's okay. I promised to talk a little bit on post-isolation syndrome, and I love what you said, Patrick, that working with your team, you're reminding them, make sure you're comfortable now, because we might have to go back to this at some point of time. And I think post-isolation, challenges related to post-isolation, the anxieties that we could have around that are similar. We have so many aspects of our lives that were not an active part of them during the lockdown, with social distancing and all of that. So we need to think about what do we have control over that can give us a sense of comfort. So for example, maybe we don't get on the public transport. Maybe even seeing people with masks can feel overwhelming. Maybe we'd rather cycle instead, or let's make a plan. We want to get to this park, or we want to get to the office if the office is opened with a few desks for a few people, which is a route so we can avoid some of the most crowded streets, or really whatever feels triggering to us, to just take a bit of time to make a plan and have those steps in mind. The next thing is to clarify. As we're in stage 2, stage 3 is not far from now. More friends, more family members, more coworkers are starting to reach out and say like, hey, let's meet up, or do you want to come over? And to be honest, regardless of what's allowed at the stage, that many people can be at your home, like 6, etc. It doesn't mean that automatically you feel comfortable with that, or that you feel comfortable going to someone else's place. So it's important to clarify things like, how often do you feel comfortable at this specific moment to hang out with people? Do you feel comfortable to maintain like a bigger distance, or maybe you just rather talk to people on video for now? There is no right or wrong. It's really up to you and looking after yourself, as we said earlier. Now, the importance of breathing cannot be understated here. I think it goes back to also what Piers was saying, saying, knowing the symptoms of what, let's say, an anxiety attack could be like, or any level of anxiety. Breathing can really help us manage that. There are lots of apps for that, but I think even knowing it is not enough. We need to do the breathing bit, and it's really, really helpful. And the last piece here is to remind ourselves when we look after ourselves to choose our pace, not to jump back in fully. Let's take our time. Let's pace ourselves. We've been through a lot this year. Maybe the aliens will be arriving in July. We don't know. I'm sure everyone has seen those calendars, like what's ahead of us for the rest of the year. But let's mind ourselves. And there is a lot of emotional effort that March, April, May, June are taking. So try to commit to less. And I see a lot of companies are becoming more understanding in regards to that. And I think having an open conversation about it is better. It could be a bit uncomfortable, especially if you don't feel your manager might be understanding in general. But I think it's a really important moment. I was working with a company where most of the people were burning out, and like, what do you do with that? And that was mid-May. It's scary to think how they feel right now. And it's really hard to reverse it, especially when it's the majority of employees feeling, in the blue section of what we were looking at the start. So I know there are lots of questions, so I'll stop sharing my screen and we'll go back to...
Lovely. Thank you so much for that. I'm just going to bring us all back into the conversation here. My headset here. Thank you so much. We're going to see if we can get Piers. There's Piers, and wonderful. Let's bring Piers back into the conversation. Piers, can you hear us? I don't know if we can or not. Oh, you're on mute. You're on mute. There you are. Now we can hear you.
Then, yeah.
Fantastic. I think that's really interesting with how we cope as we move beyond this new normal. I think it really is. I think we have to really be kind to ourselves, don't we? We have to sort of not overly prepare, not overly assume this is how we're going to respond to things, because we just don't know how things are going to work out. We literally do not know. Roisin, have we any questions that's come through from Slido?
Yeah, we have a bunch of questions here. So we have one from Andrea here, and this one's directed at Piers. So they ask, how does showing your vulnerability make you feel? It takes a lot of courage to do that, loving it.
I think, thanks for the question. I think it was easier because I'd spoken privately to a lot of people about it, and they'd shared their stories with me, so I could see the value, and I can still see the value of talking about this to others, because I think everybody's going through some situation, and just knowing that you can actually talk to somebody, I think helps. But for me, for me, it's also selfish that in talking, I talk to think. So in terms of talking about it, it does help me understand it and helps me think about it. And certainly in preparing this, I've understood a little bit more about that situation, just about how my mind works as well.
Cool. Perfect. So we have a question that's come through, and I think this one is directed at Vessy, and it's from Gareth. And he asks, what supports do you feel companies or employers could introduce to help employees in managing their mental health?
Loads of things. One of them is access to psychotherapists, psychologists. Many companies have programs like that. It's confidential. The employers don't even know who are the employees who sign up, because it all goes through like a system through the psychologist, and they only invoice the employer, but the employer doesn't know who they're being invoiced for. Another one would be mindcheck.me. It's a great system that you can use on your own to identify what are your levels of anxiety, stress, depression, and they also have an element that helps you identify the contributing factors for those. So let's say one morning I woke up at, I think it was 3 a.m. and at the start, just before, about 2 weeks before the lockdown. So we knew COVID-19 was coming with all of the uncertainty. Will there be lockdown? What's going on, economically, etc. And so I did the test, and it reminded me that I haven't spent time in the nature, and that's something that will balance my levels of anxiety. So I spent the whole day outside. They also have a part of the product for businesses, so you can anonymously see aggregated data of how your employees feel, and let's say how the workload also affects them at a moment of time. So that would be a cool resource as well. Mindcheck.me.
Okay, great. I actually put that into the chat for our viewers, so feel free to check that out. That's a great resource.
Workshops are great. We can doing practical things. I work with partners to deliver things like that, and it can be very, very helpful to create something more experiential. But also having things that are there in place for people to go to all the time. There are organizations who also have, that's actually part of the NHS story in the report. They did trainings for mental health first aiders. So you don't have to report, not that if you're suicidal, of course, it's important that you talk to others. But imagine if there is at least one person on your team who has gone through the training, and they can spot some of the things that can suggest you might be having suicidal thoughts or dealing with self-harm, etc.
That's very interesting. Thanks, Vessy.
I love that mind check. I had a quick look at it there. It's and it's free as well, which is fantastic. I love the concept of a first aider. I think that's incredible. We tend to always default into the physical, don't we? But going into the mental, and the mental first aider is something it's new to me, and it's something I'm going to take as an action, is to do a bit of research on that. I think it's incredible.
There is a free course on Coursera for psychological first aid. It's really, really good. And actually, after that, there was an important person in my life that I saw they were struggling during lockdown, and the things that I learned through the course and doing a couple of quick Google searches just to see how to approach the conversation, to encourage them to talk to a therapist. It was really, really important. And I think there was a moment in the lockdown when you didn't know if it will be for months that we're locked at home, and the sense of this lack of hope for the future can be extremely dangerous, especially when someone has history, with mental health, where they have had struggles in the past.
The one thing I'd say in that, just in terms of employers, from their point of view, that we're not working from home, we're remote working. And there is a significant difference between those two things. Working from home is something you do because you need to do something else in home. Remote working is a very different way of interacting with your employer. And I think we went into a remote working situation with the mentality that we were going into a working from home situation. So I think employers do have a responsibility to help set up their employees for remote working, and also check in with them as well to make sure that, if they are struggling, if they are living alone, or if they're living in a busy household, that they do check in and support them, because none of us have very few of us have volunteered to go into a remote working situation.
True.
We did it very suddenly.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Really, really good point, Piers, about the onus being on employers to check in on their employees. So that's a good one. So let's see. So kind of what you were just talking about there, Vessy, and this also goes to Piers. You're talking about your struggles or whatever it is. But a question that's come in from Killian, which I think is really interesting, is how do you become better at listening to these kind of topics? So say someone approaches you. Do you have any opinions about that?
Well, it's actually the first chapter of the psychological first aid training. It's on reflective listening, and it is different from active listening. I think the most basic thing is just listen. Don't say anything, and show empathy. Like if you're not sure what to say, just physically being there with them in their pain is a lot, or or their numbness, or whatever they're feeling. Just being there, so nothing else exists for you at that moment, and you just listen. And it's great if you can. It's the dangerous element is when people say it's not such a big deal, or it could have been worse, and that can be very invalidating. There is no place for that. Whatever they're feeling, regardless of whether they're feeling, these are real emotions, and they have every right to feel them. So if you say something that's validating those emotions, it seems like you're struggling. You look like you're in a lot of pain, and so you're respecting their emotions. That's very important. Many people rush into making suggestions. Hey, maybe go for a walk, and don't rush into fixing things, because then that can also feel invalidating.
Yeah. I don't have an answer to that, but I think in my experience, also not looking for a cause. It's very easy to go, oh, why do you feel like that? What was it? This was it that? You can just feel that way. There may be no cause. It may just be something that's happening in your brain. I would say that it's also a conversation, that you can't it's not something that has to happen once. It's a conversation that you can pick up on multiple occasions as well. And sometimes it can take, multiple chats for people to tell you what they're truly feeling. They may tell you in a way that isn't direct, and you can eventually get to that point. Just listening, I think, is the start of that.
I think also the question of not just saying like, hey, how are you? Or like, how are you keeping? These are questions that people can easily answer with like, it's like, I'm grand, right?
Yeah.
And what we're looking for is actually to understand how they're actually feeling and create an opportunity for them to share that. And then the question is, how are you feeling today? It's much more specific, and it opens for a conversation. Maybe they'll say, I don't feel great today. Even if you just make a pause, you just leave time and space. Think about it as like when you do user research, like product research, UX research, sometimes the pause can give you more answers than rushing into the next question.
And those open questions as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you know what? I think we're going to wrap up at this point. This has been a great discussion, and in fact, we could carry on discussion. I'm seeing the questions here. There's a lot more questions coming through than we have time for. We could definitely carry on talking for at least another half an hour, but we do have to stop. So with that, I really want to extend my heartfelt thanks to Piers for your wonderful contributions and discussion and talk today. Vessy as well, thank you so much. Very insightful, great leadership that you're demonstrating through your talk today, and also your contributions to society through the report and the great work you do over on LinkedIn with a lot of great content that you're making available for free to help people. So really, really appreciate that. So yeah, thank you both.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, indeed, it's been our pleasure. Okay, talk later. Okay, thank you. Bye now. Fantastic conversations. Roisin, whilst I reset, any good comments coming through on the YouTube?
Yeah, mostly just, the kind of conversation around, the experiences being so sincere and so relatable. And one that I really want to share, which is from our pal John here, which is really interesting to hear the different perspectives on mental health, showing the individuality of experience. One fix won't fit all, just like in design. So I think that's really a nice way to kind of sum up this event so far. We have been receiving a lot of amazing stories and varying different perspectives and great tips on tackling some of those issues that crop up, especially during these uncertain times that we're in.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, I think at this point we can move into our community moment. And with this, we do have some guests from our viewers who have reached out. They've sent us a direct message. And this is quite exciting because this is the bit we've not rehearsed. We don't really know what the conversations are going to be. So I'm very excited by this. I think we'll open up with Fair. I'll just bring Fair in. Am I pronouncing your name correct? Fair, is it?
Hi, it's Fernanda.
Fernanda,
yeah.
how are you?
I'm good. Thanks for the space in here.
It's our pleasure. That the floor is all yours.
Oh, thank you very much. So I'm here just to be a bit of a job fairy for the moment. So the company that I work for is a tech company here in Dublin. It's called Ding. It's DING. And we are hiring for a UX researcher, UX UI designer, and a design lead. We just kind of changed the view of the company to a customer crazy, and we want to improve our products to reach more people in a more like bespoke way.
Wonderful.
So where do we find out more? Ding.
I'm gonna send you a link that you can apply. It's in Workable. So if you go apply.workable.com/ding. You can see all the openings there. Just
okay.
There.
Yeah, got that link. So I'll just post it into our comments.
That's great. And whoever goes and gets the job gets the joys to work with me. I'm a digital designer there.
Fantastic. So we have that URL there. It's apply.workable.com/ding. Thank you so much for dropping into our stream. We really appreciate it. This is what it's for, to give a few moments out to do these shout outs and promote. So thank you so much. Thank you for taking part today.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Fantastic. I think we're going to go to Ruchi next. Ruchi, I think you're on standby, so we can bring you into the stream. I think we maybe have some problems with your webcam. We'll bring you in, and if you could just make sure your camera is sharing out correctly. But we should be able to hear you at least.
Hi, are
Yeah.
you able to hear me?
We can hear
Yeah,
you
we
at
can hear
least. We
you.
can hear you,
Woohoo.
yes.
Perfect. Well, I don't know why my webcam is not streaming. I'm very sorry about that. But
No
anyways,
worries.
I'm delighted to be here and really enjoyed today's event. Thanks so much for having me here. So I work a lot with people with disabilities in Ireland, and I have engaged with the UX UI community in the past in Dublin. I've attended quite a few talks, and I've given a few talks myself on accessibility in UX. So I'm currently working with people with disabilities to explore how they might be able to help the Irish UX UI community to incorporate accessibility in their projects. So that's what my initiative is about. And I'm because I think that there's a lot to be said there about what Amy said early on about understanding your user. And I think when it comes to accessibility, it certainly helps to have somebody who has had a lived experience to tell you what your product or service feels like or does not feel like from their perspective. So yes, so that's what, and I'm really kind of at the moment we're trying to understand what are the challenges that the UX UI community faces when it comes to incorporating accessibility. So yeah, and I actually am, we're running a short survey for that. So would it be okay if I sent you the link for the survey?
Yes, please do. We can put it on screen if it's a short URL, or we can tweet it out as well. And we can definitely put it into the YouTube comment. So if you just share that in chat, we can share that out on the network.
It's a really short URL there. Maybe
Okay.
we can get more inputs about the challenges that you guys face, and yeah, we can see how we can take it from there.
Okay, I've sent that out into the YouTube chat. It's a little bit of a longer URL, but you can see it there as well. Otherwise, how can people contact you, Ruchi?
Sure. So my Twitter handle is Ruchi Cullen. I'll type that in there.
Okay, perfect.
With me via
Super.
Twitter, yeah.
Super. Thank you so much. I'll just show that up on screen now. So that's Ruchi's Twitter handle there. So if you'd like to talk to Ruchi about that initiative, please do reach out.
Brilliant.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so
Ruchi,
much.
thank you so much for being part of Dublin UX. Thank you so much. Talk soon.
Talk soon. Bye-bye.
Fantastic. Ruchi, we're almost towards the end. Can you believe that? I know, wasn't it fun?
Amazing.
I just want to, again, give a shout out to Kathryn and the entire team at Technology Ireland Software Skillnet. They are sponsoring this evening's event and, of course, supplying the wonderful giveaways, which are going to be our Just Eat vouchers and our Plural site license, which is a year's access to Plural site.
Amazing.
It is brilliant. I'm going to bring Frank back in. Frank, you've been looking after Twitter for the evening for us. So, Frank, how has Twitter been?
Twitter it's been coming hot and heavy on Twitter.
Ooh.
And just like the YouTube comments, there's been some fantastic contributions, some questionable and funny ones as well.
Okay, should we take a little look? I think you prepared something for us here. Oh, there's my one. Oh, there you are. That is so funny.
Yeah. So I'm not sure if that's just a photograph you have of me on your desk.
Oh, it is. You know it is.
Yeah. No.
I think you guys should try and recreate that right this second.
That is so funny. Really, it's just a little bit of inside information. We do have several streams going on here. That's our green room that we're watching there, so that we can be in talk and contact with each other in the background. We're coordinating this. So that was you in the green room. Yeah. That's
well, I think everyone, just on behalf of everyone, I think you've done a brilliant job. The production quality has been RTE-like. And the quality and insight and honesty of the speakers has been fantastic. So Thank you, guys. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's the speakers.
So we have Daniel. Daniel is preparing some food as he is simultaneously watching Keith. And it's funny that the color of Keith's slide is quite similar to some of the chickpeas that are going on there.
And we can see there that he also has moved into a new house. So congratulations to you, Daniel, on your new gaff.
Yes.
That looks like an induction hob. Must be a nice place.
Mm.
Then we have Andra. Andra is the best way of enjoying chocolate with Dublin UX, and I do love those chocolates. You get them at the airport, which is something we all sadly miss at the moment. Talking about production values, Marta has a wonderful picture here of Dublin UX streaming in the background, and very much of a catalogue shot there. So there's been fantastic entries, but there's two that stood out hands and above.
We'll bring them up. I haven't seen these, so let's have a little look and see.
There we are, right? So Lauren is enjoying Dublin UX with a gin and tonic.
Oh, I'm jealous.
Alcohol, but enjoy it responsibly, shall we say?
Exactly, and of course, usually we will have beverages and food at a WX event. I've got a little mug of coffee beside me here, so it's great to see the tradition of having a little drink with WX is still there. So yes, that's great.
And I love the post-it note on the bottom of her Mac. It says "Breathe 1 2 3."
Oh, I love it, love it.
You know, little life hacks for getting through client meetings.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
And Barry Kay is watching WX with his wonderful pooch, Yuka. And Barry also posted a follow-up photo. Yuka and him went indoors and streamed WX on their TV.
Fantastic.
So, very compelling options there. And I think we are going to open live voting for a minute. Is that correct?
Live voting is open immediately, yes. So we've got about a minute for live voting, and I can see the votes are coming through here.
Streaming in.
Yes, which is fantastic. This is quite interactive. It's quite nice being able to do this, I have to say. Whilst we're waiting for the votes to come in, maybe, Roshan, we can have a little dip into our comments on YouTube. We can bring some comments into the screen.
Yeah, absolutely. So first one here, I'm just going to shout out to Lauren, who sent us in the gin. And she says, there's no way that I can compete with that dog. He is just too cute, which, well, you know, we'll see. So we've got Ruchi again saying thank you for the lovely session. And really, that's basically what's streaming in. I think we did a good job, guys. Seems like everyone learned a lot. Got a lot out of it, and this nice one here from Shane with sensitivity and grace. I think that's really nice. So thanks for that, Shane. Let's see, what else have we got here? Another excellent event and fab speakers. I think we can all agree on that one. Let's see, what else have we got? Yeah, so we've got our last one from our pal John. Big thanks to all the speakers and of course the fantastic WX team. Slick production, you'll be here, glad to know, Pat. Super impressed.
That's fantastic. I think we can call it a day on the vote. Should we have a look? And of course, we are getting towards a marathon broadcast here. We are currently broadcasting since we went out about 2 hours 38 minutes ago. So it's been a long event. So if you are around at this stage, thank you so much. But of course, this is the interactive element. Frank,
so,
should we?
Let's remind them of the prizes.
Oh, please do. I can bring back the prize slide. I think I have it here.
So it's first place. It will be the gin or the dog. There's €150 for Just Eat and 600 worth of online training for 1 year's access to Pluralsight. And second prize, of course, doesn't go without acknowledgement, and that's €50 of Just Eat vouchers. So drum roll.
I'll just bring it onto the slide. Are you ready for this? We have a winner, so let's have a look.
Okay.
Bring the results in real time. The dog. There we are.
The doggo.
83%. 83%.
Close, Lauren. It was very close.
but a modest 17% for A. So there we are. Lauren, that's not bad. That's modest enough. So the dog got it. So there we are. Very, very well done. We will be talking with you on Twitter in the next 24, 48 hours, and we'll be coordinating to get those vouchers and access codes out to you as well. So with that, I believe we are coming to an end. This has been a fantastic event, I have to say, across the board. We don't have the entire team on, so Frank, we'll leave you on as we close this one out. So amazing speakers. Of course, we started off what seems so long ago with Aimée-Louise. We then had Keith, and we moved on to Piers and Vessy, and in the middle we Kathryn. And again, incredible lineup, a serious topic. So much so, again, I just want to remind everyone of the numbers that we have been showing throughout the evening. So the numbers are to be used if you need help, and that's quite important. It is good to talk, and there are people at the end of these text and phone lines who can help, so do reach out. I do want to thank our sponsors, Technology Ireland Software, Skillnet, for supplying the prizes this evening. And I want to remind everyone, we are watching this on YouTube, so you can you can engage and keep continuing to watching these talks again and again. We are delving into our back catalogue and making some content available over the next few weeks. So do subscribe, and that's Dublin UX Rewind, which will be our new home for on-demand content from our live events. And that is it. We are coming to a close. How's it been? Oisin, what's it been like?
Amazing, but I feel like my cheeks are about to fall off from the smiling.
I completely agree. I completely agree. And you know, I'm just going to do a little shout out, because I know Flavia and Sylvia are watching in the background. If you want to jump back in again, please do. We'll bring you back in before we close this one out. Frank, how's it been for you?
Yeah, excellent. And I think it didn't feel like a Zoom call or a Google Hangout. It was like watching, as I said, a production, and everything went very smoothly. And yeah, it was fantastic.
No, that's exactly what we wanted to achieve. We will be asking for feedback, of course, how this went. You can submit that feedback. We will be looking to see, can we do more of these in the future? And of course, we'll be fine-tuning this. This is our first time running an event like this. Let's bring in Flavian. Flavian, there you are. How are you?
Hi, guys.
Welcome back. And thank you so much for looking after our green room and our guests and coordinating everything. How's it been for you?
You're welcome. That was great. Lots of interesting insights. Really love the talks, and agree with the comments about the production. That was just amazing.
Yeah. Let's bring back in Sylvia. Sylvia, you're back in again. Of course, it's an hour later for you, so thank you so much. How have the comments been? Lots of active comments, I have to say, on YouTube this evening. What's it been like?
There's been lots of comments, actually.
Yeah.
And lots of questions, bit of interaction, so it was great.
Yeah, fantastic. So amongst ourselves as an organizing team, will we do this again?
100%.
I think so. We definitely will. Of course, we would love to do it again in person. We simply can't for the next few weeks to months ahead. And I think this is a great medium and platform for us to do this. And we will be tweaking the format. So we will be asking you for some your feedback. So do make sure you share that with us over email events@wx.ie on Twitter, or by taking part in a poll that we'll send out, a survey we'll send out in the next few days as well. So with that, I think we can close off our event. It's been incredible, and really, I'm so grateful for everyone here. It's a great team that we're able to put this together. Running an event like this evening would be impossible without all of our hands coming together. There's been a lot of coordination. I feel like as if I'm in a cockpit here, all the screens around me and technology and multiple sources of input coming through, but we pulled it off, so thank you so much. Any final words before we go?
Well, stay safe, and yes. Try and get out and enjoy the sun if it appears wherever you are. And again, thank you all.
That's so true. And we will. Roisin, yeah, Jonathan?
Great. No, it's just great words. I agree. Stay safe.
Yeah, I agree. And that is it. It's been an absolute pleasure. We've been broadcasting this from our homes to yours. So thank you for allowing us in this evening. And we will do this again. So we look forward to bringing back a Dublin UX very, very soon, now that we can run this. I think we have it down at this point in time. So with that, thank you so much, everyone. And we'll see you very, very soon. Thank you. Bye-bye now.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.